Hello. I'd like to talk with you today and share a story about a hidden gem. One time, long time ago, Yahuah, the creator of the Shemayim and the Eretz and all that is in them, was searching back and forth through the Eretz, looking for a hidden gem or a diamond in the rough that he could mold and refine as a treasured possession for himself. As Yahuah searched the world over, he locked on a young man. This young man was no different than most other young men on the outside. He was wild, kind of mysterious, strong, funny, full of life. But inside of this young man, Yahuah saw something that no one else could. And that's that this man had a heart that was pure and molded after his own heart. So Yahuah watched this man for a while, and the young man began to learn about Alahim. He knew about Alahim from his childhood and all the books his mother would read to him at night. And when he became older and became an adolescent, he picked up storybooks about Samson, the ark, Noah and the ark, Abraham, and other well-known stories in the scriptures. And so the young man had a natural love for the stories that he had read in scripture, but he never really looked for Alahim in a meaningful way. So he set out after he grew up to manhood to live his life, seek his dreams, seek his fortunes, find his wife, and to have a lot of adventure. This young man was very spontaneous, full of life, full of adventure. As the young man grew a little older, he married, had children, was happy for some years, thought he had found love, thought he knew what love was, had a good job, worked hard, supported himself, supported his family, paid his bills. After a decade and a half, the young man's wife decided that the grass was greener on the other side and thought she would look for love or look for herself in all the wrong places. Eventually, this led to a divorce. She went her way and he went his way. The young man married again for about 5 years, maybe 7. Things went haywire. And again, he went his way and she went her way. Young man was desperate then to find love, but didn't really know what love was. And he didn't have good judgment for what a good partner was. So he went through 4 or 5 different partners, and then he finally spoke with another gal and ended up marrying her, dated. Everything seemed to be the way it was supposed to be for him. And so he got married to her. Several years later, same thing. The marriage fell apart and there was a divorce. So the young man continued looking for love, or at least what he thought love was. And he started thinking that, boy, I'm getting good at this love business. So he began to write poems after poems, began to interact with women, dating them, emailing them, finding them on websites, so forth and so on, and turned into quite a player of love. Eventually, and unknowing to him, Yahuah was still watching him. Never stopped watching him. So Yahuah decided that this young man needed to find love and know what love is. And so the young man came across a woman and they fell in love, at least what he thought was love, but it was actually infatuation. As the young man stayed with this woman for a while, he started thinking that he really loved this woman and he wanted to marry her. And so he decided this time, instead of deciding on my own if this is love, I think I'm going to ask the Almighty, the Creator, Alahim. And so the young man, who was strong, handsome, intelligent, very strong-minded, straight stature, who had fallen in love with this beautiful maiden, decided to drop to his knees and call on his Maker for approval. That way, he thought this time, he'll let me know if this is who I should marry. After all, he already had 3 strikes. So the young man dropped to his knees, called on his Alahim, and said, Master, Master, I have met a beautiful maiden and have fallen in love with her. Master, may I please have her for my wife? After some time went by, a short period of silence, the young man heard a slight, quiet voice within his mind say plainly and clearly, no. The young man said, "Oh, that must not be Alahim. That must be my own mind thinking that." So the young man prayed harder and harder. The young man was begging and begged for an answer. Then he fell quiet. After a short period of quietness, he heard the answer again. No. The young man, who was heartbroken and confused and didn't understand, begged his Alahim harder and wouldn't stop asking. He thought, maybe if I continue to ask and bug him like a little kid does their parents for candy, maybe he'll finally give in and say yes. So the young man begged his master many times for this woman's hand in marriage. Finally, another answer came, and the answer was no. But, and the young man perked up, in order to show you and teach you what love is, in order for you to learn the depths of my love for you, I will allow you to have her in your life for a short time. Not as your wife, but only for a short time. Well, the young man was thrilled, overexcited, and he abruptly agreed to this and leaped for joy as the calf from the stall. Have you ever seen a calf locked in a stall for a couple days and you let them out? They start jumping and kicking and bucking and throwing their heads around, and they're very happy to be let out of that stall. They got boxed up energy. Well, that's what this young man was all about. He was like a little calf being let out of the stall. So he started to get up, and he thought, as he was almost off the floor on one knee, hang on a second. So hastily, he dropped back down to his knee, both knees, and he asks another thing from his Alahim. The young man said, "Pardon me, my majesty, but may I just this one more time ask one more thing of you?" And his Alahim said yes. And the young man said to his Alahim, "Alahim, you said you love me so deeply that your love for me motivated you even to death, even death on a stake. Didn't you say that?" And his Alahim answered yes. And the young man said, I do not understand. I do not understand. Why would you love yourself to death and die for me? If you really loved me that much, wouldn't you stay with me? Why would you die and leave me? I do not understand. Then the young man said, Please, Alahim, send me an example of this divine love that led you to death that you speak of, because I wish to love like that. I wish to love beyond human capabilities and comprehension. Matter of fact, I wish to know what love is more than any other human that has ever lived. Please, Alahim, I wish to know divine love. Show me how your love for me feels, so that I can understand why you died for me. Show me this mystery by just giving me one tiny drop of your love above any human capacity. I want to have a little tiny drop of your love above human love. The young man, after making this request to his Alahim, was still filled with much excitement and joy from being allowed to be with the woman that Alahim was gracious enough to allow him to be with for a short time. So with excitement, he turned and got up and ran out the room, not even waiting for an answer to this bizarre petition that he had just petitioned his Alahim with. And he went speedily away, not giving it another thought, to find his maiden. He found his maiden and told her that he had prayed to his Alahim, and his Alahim had said that they could be together. So, according to the promise of Alahim, the two young lovers set out on a wonderful adventure, unknowing to her and him it would be a short adventure. But nevertheless, their love began to blossom and grow. It blossomed as were the many cherry trees around them. It just happened to be the springtime of the year, and along with spring came new life and hope for the future. The birds were busy building their nests. The baby deer and other newborn creatures were bountiful and playful all around. The air was filled with the perfume of all the budding trees and the flowers. The scent of the flowers laid heavily in the air, and love called out to them, "Come, come, young lovers. Taste the love of nature has to offer." Overwhelmingly, what was overwhelming them the most was the desires of their flesh. And they were joyfully, exceedingly interested in each other. So after a few days of frolicking and teasing each other with their feelings, the two lovers decided to go on a horseback ride. So they went on a horseback riding adventure. They prepared themselves the day before. They packed fruits and sandwiches and vegetables. They even packed fruits of the vine. put it all on the horses and the saddlebags, and got up early the next morning, saddled up, and went off on their adventure. The two lovers rode up and down the beautiful green rolling foothills. They watched the rabbits and the squirrels and the birds. Love was in the air. They continued riding through half the day or so until they finally came upon a beautiful spot. It was on a grassy green knoll. It was deep into the back countryside, hidden from anyone's view. It was a soft green pasture, sprinkled with many colorful wild flowers that seemed to overwhelm the manicured hayfield that they had happened across. There were woods on all four sides of the meadow. The southern trees hid a seasonal creek, which was swollen and running high through the woods from the abundant rainfall of that time of year. The trees were simulating an echo chamber, which funneled the soothing sound of the flowing waters into their ears. The serenity and beauty of creation was magnificently displayed in this natural portrait of reality. The birds were singing. The wind was slightly whistling to them through the trees, and above them was a deep blue sky which seemed to have no ending. They agreed. What a wonderful world this is. And we have found the perfect spot to rest and have our picnic. And so, after dismounting, they tied their horses up to a nearby abandoned round hay bale. Then they spread out their blanket and laid upon it. And they did eat and drank the fruit of the vine. Afterwards, being satisfied, the two laid closely together, holding hands, laying on their backs, while staring up at the grandest, bluest of skies they had ever seen. The slight breeze passing over their bodies brought with it the sweet fragrance of the flowers in the field. It stirred up the air above their nostrils, and the smell of each other's sweet sexes were in their nostrils. They were aroused by the sweet fragrances protruding from the pores in their skin. The endless touching and caressing of their bodies began, along with the passionate, rough kissing that seemed to go on for hours and were tempting them beyond their self-control. Their flesh had taken over. They were completely overtaken by the mind of the flesh, unknowing to them. They were drugged with love's potion, oxytocin. At this point, you might say that they were totally in a natural, hypnotic state, which is called infatuation, which is so often mistaken for love or deep love. The redness and soreness around their mouths that were now engaged in soft kissing, which led to even more sexual appetite or excitement. Although their faces were now red with the soreness and their lips were swollen, they could not stop. There was no longer any resistance. They continued wetting each other by exchanging saliva. The two lovers yielded to each other's motives because of the continuous touching, feeling, hugs, and kisses that literally went on for hours upon hours. They subtly caved to temptation and did sin in the sight of their Alahim. As the young lovers laid naked together, recovering from the forbidden acts, which are reserved for a marriage, they began to feel guilty. Although they laid quietly and knew not each other's thoughts, they both thought of the same things. How long will this last? Will this lustful relationship become more than sexual or infatuation? Will we start a new family? Will we have children? Is this the start of something big? Is this the start of a lifetime together? Then, shudderingly, without notice, Yahuah sent them a sign above. Now, laying on their backs, looking above, they received answers to their hidden thoughts and a glimpse into their immediate future, unknown to them. Behold the sign given by Alahim. Two doves soaring together in perfect rhythm and harmony, with splendid beauty high above, where eagles dare to go. But then suddenly, appearing out of nowhere, a flock of crows came and picked at them. With their dark bodies and pointed beaks, the crows harassed the two doves exceedingly. In a relentless attempt to drive them apart, they picked out the feathers, they poked them in their eyes. The doves, who could no longer sustain the stabbing of the stabbing of the crow's sharp beaks, turned and speedily flew off toward the east. But very quickly, the crows, who had larger and more powerful wings, caught up to them, and without mercy, the crows pecked at them until finally the crows got their way. The two doves became tired and could no longer fight off the flock of crows. The crows sensed this and took advantage of their weakened state by separating the doves. They concentrated on the female and caused her to take flight toward the west, away from her companion. The crows were now in a frenzy, screeching and dashing to and fro. They resembled black arrows being shot by 100 bows all at once in every direction. Now being in an elevated state of excitement, they all turned and followed after the female dove, driving her even further toward the west, poking and stabbing at her continuously along the way. Soon, they had her surrounded within such a tight formation that the female dove could no longer be seen. from the darkness of the crows. This flight trap spawned from the crows prevented her from reconnecting with her male counterpart. The two lovers watched in amazement until the doves and the crows were gone out of their sight. The young man feared the sign from Alahim, for he understood it, but the maiden knew not the true meaning. Although initially stunned at the display above them, which they had just witnessed, their attention suddenly focused back on each other, and their puppy love prevailed. They couldn't stop looking into each other's eyes for hours and hours upon hours. They gazed through each other's eyes as to try to see into their innermost thoughts. They continually smiled at each other with their mouths and their eyes. The two lovers continued kissing almost until midnight. They felt as though they would never be separated. This activity was repeated for hours throughout the next following days, almost uncontrollable at times. The two lovers lost track of time and reality as they spent many, many more days together performing fornication. But as spontaneously as the infatuation began, it ended or wore off, and the thoughts of a lifetime together entered the forefront of their minds. They began discussing marriage and family. They soon realized that the heated relationship would have to take a turn toward seriousness and commitment, or it would surely die. As the realities of life creeped in, they found themselves talking and wrestling with life's pressures. The very thoughts of marriage were mystical and exciting for them. Life in its reality became prevalent, and they finally began to feel real love for each other in ways that motivated the young man to give a proposal. The young man, now deeply caring for her, told her that he loved her, and she expressed the same feelings toward him, or words. Now, being convinced of their love for each other, he did ask her for her hand in marriage, and she joyfully accepted. Now betrothed to each other, the world seemed to be a much smaller place, and their doubts diminished, giving way to hope, charity, and love. The sign of the doves and the crows were now long forgotten in each other in their minds. Unfortunately, this reality, or their reality, of a lifetime together was no more than a fantasy. Obviously, during all the relationship activities, the young man seemingly forgot about his Alahim and the covenant he had made with him. But his Alahim did not forget, and so it came. A dark day, the dreaded day. It was the day that the sign of the doves and the crows had projected. That awful day caught them off guard. The day that her family showed up and took her far away to the west and hid her face from him. The maiden's family did not like the young man and felt he wasn't a good fit for the family in general. Sadly, they didn't realize that couples were under the command to leave their childhood families and start a new family of their own, forsaking all others. The maiden's family was selfish and wanted her to stay near them forever. young man was overwhelmed by chaos and confusion and betrayal. Why did she go with them? She didn't have to go, he thought. Why didn't she resist their proclamations more strongly? The young man felt angry and thought to himself, the obvious reason must be because they kidnapped her and left her no choice but to go with them. Same as the flock of crows did to the pair of doves, he thought. After all, she had to be in love with him equally as he was with her. It just had to be, because the feelings, the joy, the sex, and the loving words that were shared by them couldn't have been just infatuation, could it? Besides, she accepted his proposal. They were betrothed. This had to be against her will. So after contemplating this for some time, the young man made up his mind that he would run after her to rescue her from her would-be abductors. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, he felt a slight tap on the shoulder. He knew instantly who it was. It was his Alahim, demanding his attention. So the young man stopped in his tracks and fell to his knees and said, I am here, my master. And his Alahim said, no, this is what was promised to you, only but a short time with her, and you did accept these conditions. Furthermore, you have sinned and lost your way. Repent now and return back to me, and I will deliver you from your sin, anguish, and hopelessness, and I will show you true love, or pure love. Although the young man was distraught and heartbroken over his maiden, he decided that it would be wise to listen to Alahim. He thought, I will listen to Alahim, and in a short time I will forget about her, and this pain will vanish. Besides, I did, in fact, agree to a short time with her, after all. However, despite anguishing for what seemed to be a long length of time, the young man's mind would not forget about this maiden, and his heart could not stop aching for her. He thought to himself, this is not going away. This is not normal. It must be my destiny to be with her. I will ask Alahim to return her to me, because this just doesn't make sense. Why would Alahim get pleasure from taking away our precious love for each other anyway? So, I will ask him to give her back, because he said in his own words, whatever you ask in my name, I will do. This is what he thought to do. And so, it began. He prayed over and over and over again, petitioning Alahim to send her back. Although he prayed 100 times and 100 petitions went up before Alahim's throne, there was no answer, and time dragged on. Despite all the begging, crying, and fasting offered by the young man. The more he grieved, the more he became weak and frightened. He had heard it said that time heals all. Just give it some time. But his love was not fading with time, but growing stronger day by day. Why couldn't he stop loving her? What was wrong? What was happening to me? What was happening to him, he thought. Why couldn't he recover? How could this be? He was in severe pain and thought to himself, if this doesn't ease up soon, maybe my heart will burst and I will die of a broken heart. Then suddenly, uncontrollably, his legs began shaking and trembling. His knees became so weak that they soon folded underneath him. Now, not able to withstand the shaking, he collapsed to the floor. The pain of this powerful growing love, going by the minute now, drove him to the ground. He wept bitterly, and he had not the strength to get back up. His entire body was overcome with the monumental love that was growing inside of him by the second now. He was harshly stricken, and the pain was more than he could bear. He cried out to Yahuah in his ultimate weakness. Please, Yahuah, love hurts. Please, make it stop. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, the young man remembered the petition. He struck himself on the forehead and said, "Oh, wow, how could I have forgotten? Could this be because of what he had hastily asked of his Alahim?" While still shaking uncontrollably on the floor, while on his hands and knees in the most weakened state of his entire life, he did the only thing he could think of at that point. The young man, now being close to death, mustered up the last ounces of strength he had left and reached his arms toward the heavens and called upon the name of his Alahim and began begging for mercy and forgiveness for breaking his instructions. He said, "Alahim, I do remember asking you to experience your pure love over all human experiences. If you have answered my prayer exceedingly, please, my Master Yahuah, I implore you, please take away this pain. I can no longer bear your divine love in my body. I plead with you according to your mercies and your loving kindness that is written in your word. Please remove this from me. Lest you do not, I will surely die." After a moment of silence, his Alahim responded. He said, "Now you know why I died for you. And it is known now you know the one drop of my divine love is greater than all the love of men bundled together. I sent to you just a fraction of my divine love. In comparison, it would be the same as one drop of water out of the entire seas of the world. Now you know how much I love my creation and why I chose to die so that you may live. My pure love is alive, animated, and will never fail or fade away. It only grows stronger, and I love you more and more each day. Meanwhile, the young man, who was still lying on the floor, almost dead, had totally collapsed himself into a prostrate position, facing down, and was almost totally out of his mind. The once strong young man that stood tall, strong, and alone was now using all the strength he had left. Rolled into his left arm, rolled over onto his left side, and then he placed his right hand upon his chest. He now begged his Alahim, saying, "With my last breath, I beseech thee, O Yahuah, please take your divine love from me. It is too powerful for a mortal man to possess it. Please, please, remove it, lest I die. But if it be your will that the power of your divine love should destroy me, then your will be done on earth as it is in heaven, my Alahim." As his Alahim was looking down upon him, he had mercy upon his collapsed beloved servant. He remembered that he was made but from dust and water, and that blood flowed through his veins. He then acted out of his perfect, loving kindness and did as the servant asked. Yahuah returned his divine love back to himself, and immediately the young man was able to rise to his knees as he felt his life-giving essence slowly returning to him. The young man, now back to his right mind, realized it was not the love of the maiden that had held him captive for all those months, but it was the love of Yahuah that he had asked to experience, that was increasing day by day, and Yahuwah's love that was what had overwhelmed him to the point of his death. Yahuwah's amazing love that hurt so bad, even to near death, was refusing to fade away. The young man now understood that Yahuwah's love for him will never die. He understood that Yahuah, who is love, never died, but only the vessel, the incarnation, is what died, not Yahuah or Yahuwah's love. Yahuwah's love lives forever. Matter of fact, Yahuwah's love for us refuses to decrease, but only increases as he continues to forgive us and nourish us with his breath of life. Apparently, this expanding love is what drove the Messiah to the stake to die in our place. The love that was portioned to mankind is sufficient to love Yahuah above all else and to love others as ourselves. We don't need any more love than what Yahuah has allocated to us, because our human bodies cannot handle the power that is contained in Yahuah's pure love, especially while dwelling in our sinful, mortal, fleshly bodies. The mere power contained in a drop of Yahuah's expanding pure love may cause us to explode or cause our hearts to burst. The young man was so grateful to Alahim for the experience of pure love that he promised to love and obey Yahuah's commands with all his heart, mind, and being. So after much thought and a newfound appreciation for Yahuah's love, the young man raised his arms and prayed this prayer. Thank you, my Alahim, for sharing a drop of your pure divine love with me, which I have found to be far, far above man's truth. My beloved Yahuah, I now know that your love is unmeasurable, expanding, and never ceases. I now know that the pain we caused you by our falling away is an unspeakable abomination to you. Please help me to listen to your Torah or your instructions the first time. Oh, my beloved husband, how much we have hurt you with our whoring. The pain you feel when we go whoring after idols and things of this world is unimaginable. Please forgive us for taking your breath, your love, and your power for granted. Please keep me engulfed in enough truth that my love for you increases day by day, and my only joy comes from obeying your commands. Make my obedience to you my highest joy. Please give me the greatest of all your spiritual gifts, animated love for you and my neighbors. Father in heaven, help me with my amonah. Guard my heart and help me to be true and faithful to our marriage covenant, my husband. I love you, Yahuah, and I always will. In the name of your son, Yahusha, I pray and praise you. Amen and amen. So this short story of love could be an inspiration to us all once we realize that love is who and what Yahuah is. And since we are made in the essence of Yahuah, then love is who and what we are. So find love, and you'll find Yahuah, and you'll find yourself. Love, or Yahuah, has been defined for us in 1 Corinthians chapter 13. The definition of love, or Yahuah, who is love, is found in 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Thank you for watching. Peace and love to everyone. And remember to stay in love with Yahusha. So long, everybody. So long. That's Serene.
I'll sing out with praise to you. Your name is beautiful to me, my King. I'll sing out with praise to you. My heart desires sing out with praise to you, Yahusha. Living Torah, Baruch haba B'Shem Yahuah. Yahusha, living Torah, Baruch haba B'Shem Yahuah. I sing out with praise to you. Your name is beautiful to me, my King. I sing out with praise to you. My heart desires to honor you, my Yah. I sing out with praise to you, Yahusha. Living Torah, Baruch haba B'Shem Yahuah. Baruch haba B'Shem Yahuah. Baruch haba B'Shem Yahuah. Baruch haba B'Shem